pantry a couple times a week. And today David was reading, so I was there in church.
Right.
But mostly I'm not doing a whole lot of anything. Happy to see my garden is coming up.
Right.
My I was having work done on my front porch last fall, and the machinery just devastated my garden, which is right next to the porch. And I was afraid nothing was going to come up this year. And especially my hosta, because the ground looked like the Mojave Desert or something. You know, it's just cracked and beaten down.
Oh.
And so Tiffany Miner found someone on Craigslist who was giving away hosta.
Ooh.
And so she gave me some, and I'm so excited. I'm going to plant them. But this morning we realized that my hosta is actually coming up through the broken up, horrible ground. It's there. It's alive.
They're tough.
Hey.
Yes, and I am ecstatic. So now I will have at least most of my garden back. I'm so happy.
I guess you don't know until growing season comes back around, do you?
I know. And I've been building this garden. It's very small, but every year I add a little to it for 20 years. And to have it all messed up like this has just broken my heart. So.
But they probably had no choice.
No, they didn't. Right. They had to dig post holes and backhoe and tear up asphalt and and they have more work to do. They'll be coming back this spring, but I don't think they'll be doing any more digging, so shouldn't be any more damage.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, I debate about redoing the walkway to my front door, but then I think about the garden and
yeah. I knew that the garden might get damaged, but I really never thought it would be like this. And I couldn't really do Christmas decorations this winter, and I couldn't, think about planting more stuff. So it was kind of a lost year.
So many ways.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna say not just the gardens.
Yeah.
Right.
Not just the gardens. Well, I saw Barbara in the church this morning because I went to church this morning for the
I
first
saw
time.
you, David, on television at my house.
Oh, did you? Wow,
Yeah.
more than a year. Been more than a year since I've been in there for a service.
Wow. Well, I haven't done it yet because I'd rather sing. So I'm singing at home because I think it would drive me crazy to sit there and not sing.
We like to do that too.
How many were at the 10 o'clock this morning?
Maybe 20.
Yeah.
It sounded like more people to me, that's responses.
Yeah.
So yeah, good.
Or they were just more audible to us.
Yeah.
Viewing from home.
Somebody behind me was actually very sotto voce singing along with the hymns.
I bet.
Which I thought was cute. And if you
Betsy
watched,
Hopkins wasn't behind you, was she?
No. The Lambrights were behind me. That was my first suspicion.
Hello.
Hi, Bridget.
Hello. Good to see all of you.
I was laughing because I could see Father Philip trying very hard not to sing. He knew every word to every hymn, and he's up there.
Yeah, he's got them all memorized.
Right. Through his mask, you could just see his mouth going and sort of, he really wanted to be singing.
Hello.
No, 1 second here.
Can you help me turn this up? Over here.
Is it not working for you?
No, I think it is. Hi, David.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Hi, Betsy.
Hi, Betsy.
Hey,
there.
John Franco's trying to use John 13:34 to get in and is having trouble.
Worked for me.
That should work.
Yeah.
What was the capitalization on that for those who
Just
did it?
J, just the
And you
first.
did
J.
capital J.
Yeah,
And
capital
no space-
J.
And no
Not
spaces.
using any punctuation or anything?
Yeah, I have Hannah Rose on
Yeah,
my
from-
phone while
from-
Bridget's
from
talking
the
to John
website.
Franco.
Does he try to come through the, our,
I don't understand. This is the
Website.
same problem Marion was having.
Yeah.
Bridget,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try emailing a link directly to both Hannah
Okay.
Rose and John Franco,
Okay.
because that's what worked for Marion
Okay.
last
you hear
time,
that?
so. Did you?
Kathy's gonna email both you and Hannah directly. Okay. Bye.
hi, Beechings.
Hello, how are you?
Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say. I'm used to saying mornings around these things, but afternoon today.
Hi, how are you?
Mhm.
Will this be recorded so other people can see it later on?
Yep.
Yeah, it'll be available both on YouTube and also there'll be a recording that you can send around.
Great.
Comes Jolene. There he is.
Oh, maybe a little, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I know.
And go share screen.
Nice to see people coming on board, except that Branco is still missing.
I don't know where that is. I can't get on. Where am I here? I can't seem to get.
You can click off of green screen sharing down below somewhere there.
Okay.
That would be my guess. I'm not done it.
There you go.
There you go.
Now, where am I? Share.
Well, then you
Turn on your video.
you have to do this.
Jolene, do you know how to find your video?
Yeah, I've done this before,
Okay.
but I don't know where to get my picture up. I put share screen, but it didn't work.
No.
Right.
No, that wouldn't be it.
What would I
So
click?
it should look like a little video camera.
A little video camera.
On the far left.
Okay. Oh, yes, I see. I've done that, but
There you are.
There you
There
are.
she is.
Wonderful.
I haven't had to do that in a while.
Well, I thought you were a Zoom expert by now. Come on.
Well, I thought so too. Surprise, surprise.
Yes.
Philip, Hannah Rose and John Franco are having trouble getting in, and I just emailed the link to Hannah Rose.
Okay.
With the password, and she says she still can't get in.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Wendy, we cannot
Wendy,
see you.
we see your name.
Oh,
We need you to turn on your video, Wendy.
Oh, okay.
There you go. No,
Hey, how do we get,
there you
we're
There's
having
Wendy.
trouble in here, Philip.
Can you see me now?
No.
Not yet, Wendy.
Oh, Lord.
So I have a link that I can, that's generated right here. I mean, it should be the same link though, right? It ends in 5-4.
Oh, there she. No.
There you are,
There she
Wendy.
is. Hey, Wendy,
Hi,
we can see you
Wendy.
now.
How
I think
weird.
that's,
Hey, Sue.
yes,
I'm
it ends in 5-4.
I'm gonna put the official link in the,
John?
this one has the password built in.
Okay.
Okay.
So if
All
you
right.
want to try sharing that, it's in the chat. That has they won't have to put in the password if they use that.
Wait a minute. You put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Gonna try one other thing.
Yeah, because this one, there is a way to embed the password, and that's what's happening here. So it should just come right in. They won't have, they can bypass that altogether.
It's not 4 yet.
Yes, it is.
Welcome, Harry. Welcome, Carolyn.
Hello.
Welcome, Jim and Yeva.
Okay, so
Welcome, Jennifer.
There's Nancy and Jean Avery and Tim.
Harry, please. If you want to join, you have to.
Yes.
And I will switch from gallery view to speaker view when we start officially with the meeting. So,
John?
here we go. Here we
I'm
go.
going to suggest everybody mute themselves right now, unless you're one of the people who's going to lead the opening section here. Welcome, Hannah and Gianfranco.
Okay, I'm going to switch now to speaker view and start recording the meeting, Philip, and then everyone can start when they'd like.
All right.
Yeah, and again, just to echo Philip there, if you do have your mic unmuted, you should probably mute that now. I'll mute people if they forget or something. So always check if you start speaking, to make sure that you're unmuted. And I'm going to mute myself as well. All right, we're now recording.
I am going to fill the time a little bit by going through our list of kind of housekeeping things. So there are like 4 or 5 kind of rules to keep in mind as we are proceeding through. And then I'll repeat them again in just a minute, just so you know, so that we can make sure as many people as possible get to hear them. But might as well start telling you about those as people are continuing to come in. The first is to mute yourself if you are not the speaker. The second is use the chat box if you can to ask questions. So if a question comes up for you, feel free to type it into the chat box. That will be a great way for us to communicate during the meeting, because right now it looks like we have we got about 26 or 27 different screens happening here. And then we've got people joining via the live stream. So there are a lot of different families and places coming in, people coming in from different places. So sending your questions into the chat box will be good. The third thing to know is that there's really a variety of oral and visual presentations during the meeting. And so there are 2 things to keep in mind about that. One is that you may need to adjust the sound on your speakers, because we will be coming out at different sounds. I tend to have a big mouth, so the person speaking after me may be a lot quieter. So just be ready to turn up the volume. You need to know that this is not a professional production. It's a little bit more like a meeting where everybody's kind of calling in from a different room and we all have different microphones. So be ready to adjust your speakers if possible. That will definitely be the case with the video. We recorded a video from David Ridings a few days ago, and unfortunately, David's videographer was yours truly, and that is not my strong suit. So I didn't, we did the best we could with a microphone and a camera, and you're going to hear that David's message in the video is pretty quiet. So if it's possible for you to turn up the sound before David's video, we'll remind you of this, then that will be really helpful. And then the next one, and then the very last point is that we're presenting all this stuff orally, but it will all be presented also in the May Courier. So all the essential information we're presenting to you now, but if you're wondering, I'd love to get a copy of that, graphic, or I'd like to see this more. This is all this material is going to be presented to you in the May newsletter. So just encourage you to be patient in terms of getting all of the information exactly in your hands. I'm going to go back up to the top of my housekeeping list again. Just remind people that you should mute yourself if you're not the speaker. To use the chat box if you want to ask questions. We have one of the members of our leadership team who is watching the chat box and will let us know about questions that are coming up there. Reminding people that there's going to be a variety of oral and video presentations. So just be prepared to adjust your volume in order to hear everyone. I think those are my main points here. And I think we will begin. We thank you all for joining us for this very unusual town hall meeting. If this was normal times and not pandemic times, we would definitely be at St. Paul's meeting in the Hanson Dining Room. And so we'd far prefer to be together, enjoying some good social time and sharing conversations. But as it is, we have this great option to meet this way. So thank you for joining us, and we will start our meeting with an opening prayer. The Lord be with you. Gracious God, we give you thanks for the work of your church. We give you thanks that your ministry is a ministry of love and mercy and compassion and justice. We give thanks for the beauty and strength of this community. We pray for ourselves as we enter into this last phase of our work on the Open Doors project, that we would grow stronger in our faith, grow stronger in our love for you, and grow stronger in our fellowship and connections with one another. We pray these things in the name of Christ. Amen. Okay. So you're not hearing it or seeing it? Okay. Huh. Sure. Yeah. Great. We have a couple people from the other room who have just let me know that they've lost their connection. So they're wondering if they can kind of look over my shoulder. So you're going to see my guardian angels here, David Morgan and DJ, joining us behind me in just a minute here. I'm so grateful for all the people who are helping to lead this project. And we were commenting the other day how wonderful this is happening during the Easter season, because this is really a resurrection time for us. If you remember the story of the women at the empty tomb last week, the women went to the empty tomb and they were basically scared out of their wits at the time when their lives were changing, right? I want to say that this is really our time right now. We may feel very apprehensive about everything from the pandemic to not being able to see our friends at St. Paul's, any number of things. But one of the things that is true is that God is with us. We know we are working with God's Spirit because of the many different things that are happening at St. Paul's and the energies of many people coming together to do this work. Not only with the open doors, but also with things like the open pantry. The way our neighbors have joined in this mission lets us know that this is not just our work that is happening here. So we thank everybody who's brought us to this time and recognize this as an Easter moment for us. I want to give you one kind of overview before we get into all the details, and that has to do with the big picture of the capital campaign. So there's one capital campaign, and our goal is to raise somewhere around 1.6 or $1.7 million. That is what our feasibility study showed, and that is about the budget for our project. So that is the whole goal, is this raising about $1.7 million. Within that, there are three separate kind of pots of money you could think going into this, and really three different groups of people supporting this project. The first group is a couple of partner agencies that have given us very large grants, right? One is a state of New York granting agency that, because of the historic and inspiring nature of St. Paul's architecture, has given us a grant for over $550,000 for the preservation of the exterior of our building. The second grant is from Partners for Sacred Places, and that is a national organization that is specifically concerned with congregations like ours. So many of the congregations they work with are worshiping in really large buildings, often in the center of a city like ours. And so that first funding group is these two large granting organizations. As I've told you before, the grants that we've received from these organizations total more than $800,000. So that's kind of the first bucket of funds. The last bucket of funds, I'll tell you about the third bucket of funds, which we'll not start getting into for a month or two or three, is all of our kind of friends in the community. Some of these are just community members who have some connection to St. Paul's. Some of them are kind of partner organizations that work with us pretty closely. And then a third group is really many of our members or relatives of our members that we call the Diaspora. They're all over the country. And we're going to be inviting them to also participate in this. And we're excited about that because we know they'll be excited about supporting the mission and ministry that we're doing at St. Paul's. So that leaves the middle bucket. And the middle bucket is all of you and our whole congregation. And it is the capital campaign within the congregation. And that is the focus for today's meeting. So that is everything that we're talking about today has to do with this middle bucket of funding, which has to do with our member contributions. Today, we are going to be specifically talking with you about the process of soliciting and receiving gifts from our members. So we're going to start getting into the details of how this works and how all of our member gifts together add up to provide enough funding for the project. So in order to do that, I'm going to introduce our consultants, the Partners for Sacred Places. We have a team of 3 people from Partners. Gianfranco Grande is the leader of this team, and we're delighted to have Gianfranco with us and working with us. Bridget Fiddler is a senior consultant for Partners, and I really appreciate working with Bridget because she was a pastor before she started working with Partners. So she often has insights as to exactly what's going on really in the church from a pastor level. And it's wonderful to have Bridget working with us also.
Stop.
And the third person from Partners is Hannah Rose Miller. And she is doing all sorts of things to support this project. So we thank Hannah. So we pass it off to them and they've got some slides to show you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Philip. Just a very quick word that segue your presentation and is about Partners. We are very happy that you are the recipient of one of our national grants for $250,000. And so we are not just your consultant, but also we are, your funders and one of your major donors. So we are following this project with much, not only friendship, but care. And we are also very excited about the wonderful result that you already have achieved and where you are now. So let's look at some of the details of the capital campaign, what it is a capital campaign, as this campaign is going to work and all that. But first, and I will do this, I will talk about this with Bridget, of course, but just to give you a little glimpse of what is Partners for Sacred Places. And so if you want to go to the next slide, please. Partners is one of the largest national organizations in the field of preservation. Our specialty is sacred architecture. So we work with churches, synagogue, mosque, temples, and so forth. We have been around for abundantly over 30 years, 33 years exactly. And we were started at the end of 1988 in Philadelphia. Now we have staff, here says Philadelphia and Chicago. It's a little bit incorrect. And we have staff in New York, in Connecticut, and in Michigan, and in Texas as well. Our work, we do a lot of things. So we don't have enough time to tell you all the things that we do. We have programs, we do research, we have consulting, of course, and as well as we have a grants program. We do a lot of training, and I believe that, St. Paul's, before engaging us as a consultant and being recipient of one of our grants, also work with us in some of our trainings. And so we have partners with over 100,000 houses of worship across the country in the last 30 years. So you can imagine what kind of experience we have to deal with the issues that you are dealing. And at first, there is always fear, right? Congregation are always scared of those numbers, 1 million, 2 million, this and that. And then, always happen that things goes well. So we are excited to work with you, and we do that. We have the right experience, I think, to support you. So let's look at the next slide. Thank you, Anna. So this is a slide about the feasibility study. So many of you were part of that study. And I will have Bridget in a couple of minutes to add more, because she was the leading consultant on that specific portion of the campaign, because the feasibility study really was the beginning of the actual capital campaign. And is a study that takes, several weeks, a few months to really understand what is the gift potential, how much money can be raised, what are the yellow flags or red flags. Later on, we will see what is what we think that can be raised internally from the parish. Okay, because as Father Philip told us, there have been some big grants from outside partners, for this campaign. But it's very important that the parish participate, okay, to this project. So the feasibility study really asks those questions. And the strategy that we have adopted for this campaign really came from the feasibility study. And I'm asking now Bridget to lead us in that portion of the conversation.
Thank you, Gianfranco. So it was a privilege, first of all, to talk to so many of you during the feasibility study. It is an amazing deep dive into a congregation, a parish, and to really find out what makes you tick. But also what your potential is. What are, as Gianfranco said, the red lights and the yellow lights, but also the green lights. And so in listening to all of you and asking questions and looking at the project, the Open Doors project, we were really able to make some assessments and combine those into one report. So we put up top, and I guess this is in part because it's sort of my favorite, is the caring place. I think that you have found a way to replace the Samaritan Center place and have another way of creating drop-in mission in your community. So making that space more accessible, making it brighter and more inviting so that it can be used as that mission center is an important part of your project. Accessibility, and I like how the Open Doors planning team used the phrase universal access. I think that St. Paul's has done a great job of looking throughout their building at all the different places that were inaccessible to members who may be disabled, members with who just can't make it up flights of steps anymore, and all the people who just would never come in because they couldn't get in. So that is just so essential and such an important part of being a community partner, as well as a good house of worship for your members and friends. Making the building watertight. I mean, there are a lot of roofs that need some shoring up and securing. So that's also very, very important. When we talked to all of you, we found that one of the real positive bright spots was that Father Philip, the planning team, had done a really good job of communicating about the Open Doors project. And we know that it has been a long time in creating this particular part of the project because you've been through some challenges, and they've had a real, I would say the refiner's fire to really get to where you are now. And I think that you have a very strong campaign in terms of what you were trying to do and create at St. Paul's. And you have been very good and very thorough about communicating that. And I hope that you feel that way as well. And, you know, there will be a time for some of your questions so that you can continue to understand more and more about this project. For those familiar with St. Paul's, your community partners and those in the community, there is a strong sense of your presence. Many people had been to St. Paul's for concerts and other events. You're right there near where the annual Fall Festival was happening and those kinds of events. So you are in a prime location. So your presence is well known. I will say there were other community partners who were less familiar and really highlighted that they would like to know more and that your voice could be stronger in the community. I will also add that that is often the case with almost every congregation we have worked with. You can always communicate more about who you are, what your story is, and what you've been doing for the community for so long. In terms of the gift and funding potential, overall, the members were excited about the campaign. I think people really want this to happen. Is there some fear and trepidation? Of course. It would be crazy if there wasn't. I always kind of compare it to having a child, you know, it's never really a perfect time and it is very scary and it's enormously exciting. And I promise you that as this plan really begins to unfold and become real, the excitement will build because it will actually happen. And it's happened really because of your hard work and your perseverance. And I think that is really, truly to be commended. You know, if I was to decide on where people were, sure, they're nervous and they have concerns, but overall, I think they're excited. Like with any congregation looking to fundraise these days, and it's always about 1.5 million, that seems to be the number, that outside funding will be necessary. St. Paul's has done an excellent job as Father Philip has already said, you have $807,000 in outside funding. I think your potential for other funding is good, and you have those two important grants to leverage for even more funding from the outside community foundations and other resources. You also, I will just add, have two good community members on your steering committee who will help make some connections for you as well. And as I said, St. Paul's is already, you haven't actually received the money, but the promise of that money is there, certainly from us, but the state of New York looks like they're going to pass their budget, thank God. And so you will receive that money that the state of New York has promised. Okay, John Franco, do you want to talk a little bit about the planning and preparation?
Yes, thank you, Bridget. Like you said, and Father said as well, I mean, this is a project that's been going on for a long time. One of the tough things about capital campaign, before you get into the exciting part, is the preparation, is the groundwork, is the work, you know, behind the doors that nobody can see it, you know, yet is so very important. So we are at the moment now where the campaign is getting up for the next step, becoming a little bit more public, and then eventually even more public after the portion of the parish. But without lots of work, there would have been not a success. So look, I've been doing this for over 2 decades. And I can tell you that, is a science, it's not an art. And, and science, I mean, putting all the pieces together, that's what really, really requires lots of attention. And of course, I get to say, if St. Paul's is going to win one special award, is the parish better organized, is the client most careful and thoughtful that, really we have worked in certainly for a long, long time. So kudos to those guys that like Father and Kathy and Becky and David and others have been really, 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 putting all these pieces together with us at a certain point. So the feasibility study is the first step, and Bridget told us about it. And then we put together a strong steering committee. We have about 15, 16 members, including, of course, us, though we are not part of the steering committee. But we are at every meeting, clearly. And the steering committee is not a board of directors, but is a group of, it's like an advisory group that really steers the campaign into the right direction, and meets every once a month, and is really, really committed. And there is lots of good conversation and good questions that come out from the steering committee. The case statement is at the final stages of preparation, and I think will be ready really soon. Is basically the case for support. Why the wide world should give you money. Why people that are not Episcopalians, that are not in Syracuse, should give money to this project. So you understand how delicate and important is that document. There's 3, 4, 5 pages that describe really who you are, what you do, and why you need the money. What is going to change? And it's really important. Communication is clearly, as we are getting more into a public phase. I remind you, this is a capital campaign with wider reach. So it's not just internal. So it's not just about the parishioners, but it really looks at the wide world, like we said many times, members that are not part of your parish. And so the communication is really important. How we communicate to people is important. One of the things that is very obscure, but it might require a little explanation, a little talking here, is the donor ID and the pyramid of gifts. Those are very technical terms, and Father Philip will tell us a little bit more about the pyramid of gifts later. But every number, every amount of money that we're going to ask you is not a number that's coming out of a hat or just out of the blue, and we just make up these numbers. There's been a meeting between Father, Bridget, and myself only, where very privately we have discussed what is the right gift for everybody. And this is something that we take a lot of care of partners, because again, capital campaigns, in our opinion, must also be very compassionate and must keep in mind what is the situation in the life of everybody. So every number, which is again very private, it came out from a conversation looking at your history of giving, what has been given in the past by these individuals, and also what is their situation. As been now said, there is an elephant in the room in every campaign right now, which is COVID. Okay, so in our conversation, we kept in mind, of course, what is the word with COVID. And you're doing a capital campaign during one of the most challenging times of the last century. And so you're coming out very strong. So this is this idea of, to be very scientific how we do this is paying off. And then of course the project management, that is the technical aspect, and the building and the construction and all that kind of things are, working with an architect. All these things are clearly very important, but obviously, we need to have the money to do these things, because, no money, no party. So we need to have the fundings to do the restoration, right? I see Father is smiling at one of my silly jokes. It's important. Money is important. I know that lots of you might not like to talk about money, but guys, that's at the end of the day, a capital campaign is about raising money. And so please put aside whatever, shyness that you might feel about money. because it's really important in a project like this. And let's go to the next slides. And I'll ask now Bridget to say more about this.
So looking at these bullets here, we realize that you're doing very well. A number of these things have already begun or happened. So donor solicitation training is something that the steering committee, as well as other members of the parish, participated in. It was a two-part training, and you actually added a third part for yourselves to continue your practice. And so every person on the solicitation team gets a chance to learn about the details of how to make the ask, why to make the ask, and why giving is not just important for the church, it's important for individuals, right? That we each one of us benefits from being generous and from giving. So you have a trained solicitation team, and they will be matched. Each member will be matched with a donor. And we take this also very seriously. It's not random. We depend on Father Philip, but also other members of the donor solicitor task force to curate, make those very careful matches. So we don't have best friends matched together. We don't have a very brash person asking someone who's very shy. We want people to feel comfortable with one another, but also we don't want any relationships to go awry or anything like that. So we are careful about that. There also might be history that we don't know about between people. So it's done so that it's a good match, and that each solicitation, with the exception of top donors, is done one-to-one. So we don't have two people going out to speak to one person unless it is a top donor. And top donors are visited by Father Philip and either John Franco or myself, because those are particular. But overall, those one-to-one solicitations will be done, if possible, in person safely, or through a Zoom call, if that's another way that would feel more comfortable for some. So we try to get that one-to-one connection. And it's just very important to understand that every person really does need to be asked. There will be times when people will try to preempt the ask, and we kindly, politely ask you not to do that. It's important to have the conversation, to sit down together. And, you're among friends, and it's important that you have a recognition that you have both dedicated your lives to following Jesus, to, walking the path, but also to St. Paul's. And you are here because it's important to you and it's made a difference in your life. The Diaspora Task Force is really a task force that reaches out to members who have moved away or faded away. And I like to think of them as being remembered. They will not necessarily come back into the fold as full-time members because they maybe live across the country, but they have been a part of the fabric of St. Paul throughout generations, perhaps, that some of their most important family life moments and milestones have occurred in this sacred place. And we want to give those people an opportunity to support this effort, to be a part of it because their grandparents were a part of it. And I remember talking to people during the feasibility study, so many people talked about their grandparents or their parents' weddings or funerals taking place at St. Paul's. So that is a particular task force that will do reaching out, sometimes one-to-one, if possible, either through a Zoom or through a person-to-person meeting. And if not, and if in other cases, it might be a letter. So it's an opportunity for those folks to support and give to the campaign as well. There are other things that can help to strengthen St. Paul's and strengthen its case to not only to the community, but also to yourselves. The economic halo study really looks at all the ways, it quantifies all the things that you've already been doing and have been probably doing for a long time. And COVID aside, because it's challenging year with COVID and not being able to be together and to have all the services that you would normally be providing for your community and members. But basically, we look at how your green space, how the concerts that you provide. We look at how many meals you provide, how many volunteer hours, what kind of counseling services has Father Philip provided that have strengthened relationships, marriages, all of the things that you provide as a community through the Caring Place that really can be put into really a dollar amount. And when a church sees itself in that light, it changes the way it perceives itself. Because churches, I think, tend to look at themselves as charitable. We're doing what Jesus asked us to do, right? We're walking the walk. We're clothing and feeding and visiting, and of course, that's what we do. But every one of those ministries has a financial number attached to it that, when added up, can be a very significant number. And when you go out to the community, you become a financial player because of that number. So I'm going to just ask Gianfranco to sort of also add to that comment about the economic halo.
Yes, Bridget, thank you. And of course, you put together a beautiful narrative, what it is. In other words, this is a methodology that we have developed in collaboration with the University of Pennsylvania, creating an actual tool that is able to evaluate what is your economic impact via your work through the ministries and services that you provide and the space that is used, from the church to your wider community. Okay, so this study is always, I think there can be a number very important for St. Paul. Let's say there might be anything between $1 to $1.5 million, which is, again, an economic impact that you are giving to your community. And that is very important when you go to a foundation, for instance, or a city official, and you say, help us in our capital campaign because we are nice, or help us because we are already giving to the community, an important number. And so we are going to do this evaluation of St. Paul's, and we'll attach that evaluation, which is a scientific copyrighted evaluation, to the capital campaign narrative and in the case statement to make your case even stronger. Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you. So, and then finally, the project promotion. So there is the case statement, which will be a very unified and simple way of getting the reason people should care about St. Paul's and its project, the reason it has something to do with them, but also really puts together in a very simplified form your whole case and your whole campaign, the Open Doors campaign. There are other supportive documents or tools that you will use, such as a video. Videos are really, really effective tools for getting your story out to the community. It will have, internally, it will have a feeling of what I call like a family home movie. It will look familiar. It will make you proud of your parish and what you've been able to accomplish and what you are about to do. But it will then also educate the community about who you are and what you've been doing and why this campaign matters to them. Gianfranco, do you want to add to that at all? I didn't.
No, that's there will be some public relations, and if COVID will leave us alone, maybe hopefully in the future, we will have some gatherings, but we can't plan any of those right now. But there will be an effort in the public relations, obviously, about the capital campaign later on.
And then finally, this is just for your edification. You know, so much of a capital campaign is the infrastructure that we create to build the campaign. 70% of a capital campaign is done in the silent phase with the steering committee and the task forces to really build the campaign and get it ready to launch into the public phase. And so this really is just an overview of the structure of the campaign, and it really outlines that, you know, Father Philip with his right hand there, Rebecca, are really sort of at the head, but we rely equally on Kathy Wolf and David Ridings, your co-chairs, and their work has been really, really strong and amazing. And then we here at Partners work, and really it has some hierarchy, but it really is we depend on each other, and we work with one another, and we lean on one another because each group has different strengths. We talked about the case statement. That task force is really underway and almost completed with its work. The community task force will also get its ducks in a row to be able to launch into the community and talk about the campaign, to do anything that has to do with communicating, letting the parish know where you are, and making sure that people are aware of this campaign internally and externally in the community. Working on the video, for example, is another that's actually the communications task force, which is next. The communications task force is also getting that word out to the community internally, the video, any kind of newsletter, any kind of press information that could go out to share this information with Syracuse and beyond. We talked about the individual donor task force of matching donors and solicitors, Diaspora, also reaching out to those members who or former members to be remembered and to be asked if they would donate. Project management task force doing the building and construction parts of this important work. And then the development task force really kind of moves in closer to the end of the campaign, just as really you're about to launch into the public phase, so that you have raised a good percentage of your funds internally, 60+% of that, so that you can go to foundations and other funders to say we have hopefully 99 to 100% of the congregation is giving in some way, shape, or form to support this campaign. Plus, you also have your grants, which also help in your development work, going out to other foundations, because foundations will always want to know who else is supporting and giving to this campaign. So these are the entities that really create or take care of each aspect of a campaign. And we work with each one to various degrees to make sure that their work is going smoothly, and if they have questions and in ways we can support them at Partners. All right, I think that's it. Gianfranco, unless there's anything you want to add, I think we can move to the
you
next
said
slide.
it beautifully. Thank you, Bridget.
Okay. Okay, Philip, I'd like to turn this over to you so you can share about the pyramid of gifts.
Sure. Thank you, Bridget. So the main thing I'd reiterate about the pyramid of gifts is that this is based upon conversations with our members and also with kind of identification for each individual gift. So in order to raise this large amount of money, it really takes everybody working together. One of the things I'd point out about this pyramid is that if any of these levels are missing, we can't raise our total. They all contribute really significantly to the total. So we start by soliciting 70 gifts of $100 to $10,000 from our members. These are pledges for gifts that can be made for up to 3 years. So for instance, if someone is not able to contribute a lot this year, but they know, for instance, next year or the year after that they have more access or more funds available, then they're able to stretch their gift out over a longer period of time. So 70 gifts in the $100 to $10,000 range, 12 gifts in this middle range, which is very large, $15,000 to $40,000. We need 12 gifts in that category, and we think that's a reasonable number for our congregation based on our past giving. And then finally, 4 gifts of $50,000 or more. We want to emphasize that all of the gifts at each of these levels is a generous gift. I talked about that in our sermon this morning about St. Paul's being a place of generosity. So I want to thank you in advance really for making a pyramid like this possible just by your past gifts to St. Paul's. I am really just grateful to be with a congregation that is so generous in so many different ways. And so this is our pyramid of gifts. You'll see this again in the Courier, but again, this is how we get to this total of $718,700 for our internal goal for our congregation. I'm going to now introduce one of our co-chairs, and she will tell you, this is Kathy Wolf. Kathy Wolf will tell you about our tentative timeline.
Thank you, Philip. Oh, great. Hopefully everybody can see the timeline on their screens. For some of you, the type may be a little small. You've already heard about the Capital Campaign Steering Committee, but I wanted to take the opportunity to mention the names of those who join your leadership team in working on this. Members of our steering committee include Tom Cantwell, Betsy Elkins, Wally Francis, Marion Greenhall, Michael Mock, Doug Muncy, and our 2 community members, Gary Grossman and Joe Sisko. And it's been a real privilege to work with each and every one of them. We've been meeting monthly since I think February, and we will continue to meet through September. And we have been working closely with all the different task forces that have already been outlined for you. This tentative timeline is a real summary of what is yet to be done. There are a lot more items that aren't on here because it would just make it way too long. But every task force has very detailed ideas of what they're trying to accomplish in their own timelines. The case statement is the first task force to complete its job. Once the case statement is finished, which will happen this month, hopefully this week or very soon. And the video that Bridget mentioned is sort of a partner to the case statement. That is going to be filmed in the month of April. We will also begin soliciting our top donors and our internal solicitations, and we will be signing a contract with our architects. So this is a big month for the Open Doors project, and everything is on track at this point. In the month of May, we hope to be planning for a public launch of our capital campaign, which under normal circumstances would be some kind of a gathering at the church. Whether we're going to be able to do something like that in the summer months is unknown this time. So we're tentatively saying that we would do a public launch event in June. Maybe it would be later, depends on how COVID progresses. Ideally, we'd love to be able to do something that involves refreshments and information and people gathering face to face. So hopefully we will be able to do that at some point this year. The internal solicitation has a fairly short window within this timeline. We're hoping to get that pretty much wrapped up by the end of May, which then gives us the opportunity to go out to the broader community and launch that campaign in the month of June. What we're hoping for is 100% participation. It matters more in making our message to the outside to be able to say how many parishioners are supporting the campaign than how much money is part of that, really. Participation rate is really important to outside funding. The video is scheduled to be completed in the month of June, and that will be a key piece of our external solicitation process in particular. Then we get more heavily into things that have been provided by our very capable leader of the project management task force, Becky Livingood, and I have agreed to be her voice for today, so I hope I get this all right. The construction drawings and specifications are due to be completed by our architects in August. Those documents are necessary in order for us to get all the necessary permissions in order to proceed with construction. And in addition to going to the State Historic Preservation Office, we will also be submitting documents to the Syracuse Landmark Preservation Board and the City of Syracuse Codes Department. So over August and September, those submissions and approvals will be happening. Once we've received approval, then we can go on to the bid phase to hire a construction contractor. So in the months of September and October, we will be soliciting, receiving, and opening bids, and then reviewing the bids and negotiating with our preferred contractor to get to a point where we're able to sign a contract in the month of November. Once the contract is signed, the contractor has a lot of work to do to prepare for the construction to begin in January. And before anybody says, what are you crazy? You're going to do construction in Syracuse in the winter. There's a lot of work that can be done internally in the building in the winter months. Of course, we're not going to do the roof in January because that would be stupid. But the contractor is the one that determines the order in which the work will take place. And the contractor will be working very carefully with Father Philip and the rest of the team to make sure that whatever spaces they need to work on are available to be given to them and taken away from us for a short time or a longer time. But remember that none of the worship space is being affected in the main church, so we can still worship while this project is going on. We won't know for sure at every moment in time right now which door you're going to be able to use to enter the building, which parts of the building will be available for use, but that will all be worked out well ahead of time so that it should be fairly smooth sailing. At least that's our plan. The construction period takes approximately 26 weeks, which means that by July we should be completed, and then we'll have a party, we'll celebrate, and we'll also have to then do all the paperwork to close out all of our grants and to close out the project. And I think at this point, we want to go to gallery view briefly. And the reason we're in this view is I'm encouraging everybody now to find where your volume setting is on your device and turn the volume up, because we're about to watch the video that Philip mentioned earlier with David Ridings, and the sound level on the video was a little challenging. Once the video starts, you won't be able to change your volume settings. So hopefully I've given you enough warning to find your volume and fix it. And now we will hear a special message from David Ridings.
Nancy and I have been a part of St. Paul's since we can hardly remember, but I think Nancy, even as a child, and me, probably nearly that time. So, and we've been involved here and love the place and love what it can do and has been doing for the community. So it's logical, I suppose, that it means a lot to us and has for a very long time. We think of it as being a part of Syracuse, and particularly in the future as the city needs major multi-use facilities that St. Paul's can be for our community, a meeting place. It's easy to work with, it's right in the middle of everything, and to me it's a great place to have available to not only our parishioners, but to the city of Syracuse. Open Doors is really just that. It's a part of opening our doors as far as mission is concerned here in the community, and that's the way I see it, that we will be able to reach out more to more people. Open Doors helps St. Paul's and the city of Syracuse because it lets us do so many more things with the facility, and it strengthens it. It does things that enables things like the caring place to be developed, and we want to build on our mission. That's one of the major objectives, of course, at St. Paul's, but also we want to be a part of the city of Syracuse, and some of the things we're doing will also help us be able to do things such as the Symphoria concerts and things of that nature. So to me, Open Doors really helps us fit into the future of Syracuse and St. Paul's. Nancy and I have been talking about the Open Doors project since probably it almost began, everything 2015, 2016, and we've talked right up until, of course, she passed away. And we felt so strongly about it that that's how come in the final analysis we thought, let's do something significant. And so we pledged $200,000 to this total campaign. And we even went further than that, and that we felt that it was so important that we make sure that everybody understood how important their gift is going to be to this campaign. And so we thought, well, okay, we could do another 100,000 if everybody can manage to put together the rest of the campaign and meet our goals. So that's why we did what we did, and we hope it helps. The beauty of all of this is that so many of you have worked together for so long to make something like this happen, and we're delighted to be part of it.
David, we thank you so much for this example of generosity. I'm not sure if you actually caught David's primary message there. He and Nancy made a decision before her death last summer to make a really large gift to Open Doors that was really not expected from any of us. This is exactly what I was talking about in this morning's sermon in terms of St. Paul's being a place of generosity and grace. The thing I want to tell you, David is really inviting our whole congregation into this process because he believes so strongly in the importance of getting our facilities ready for a third century of ministry. We really look at it that way, right? There's not been a major renovation to St. Paul's in over 60 years. So we're thinking about doing a major chunk of work that might be getting us through the next 40 or 50 or 60 years. That's the way I think David and Nancy saw this project, and it's the way I see it. And so we encourage all of you to really think about how to stretch, how how to be as generous as possible in this specific instance, especially because it makes such a difference, right? Every dollar that we're raising, we're really matching all of these gifts from outside. And there are some requirements for matching, so that is part of it. I mean, we really need to raise a minimum of $500,000 in order to match our grants. I'm not worried about getting to that because St. Paul's is a place of great generosity. I want to thank you in advance because, you know, some of you guys are really going to stretch and be able to make a pledge of $500 over 3 years. And that gift will have the same generosity behind it as all the other gifts, including David's gift. Some of you are going to really stretch and be able to make a gift of $2,000. Whatever your gift is, we thank you for it in advance because all of this is happening because of the generosity and the grace of the people of St. Paul's. So we are blessed to be in this place together. And I thank God for that. I think, you know, we were supposed to have a time for questions and answers. And I did have about 8 or 9 questions submitted before the, basically about a week ago. So instead of taking another hour and answering all those questions, I think what I'm going to do is we will include some frequently asked questions and answers to those questions in the May Courier. So your May Courier is going to be enormous. It's going to have a lot of those answers. It's going to be trying to answer a lot of the detailed questions. What's going to happen with a parking lot, right? What's going to happen with getting into the church? Things like that. Why are you doing this? And why aren't you doing that? Questions like that. And that will all be in the May Courier. At this time, unless there's an objection from one of our leaders here, from Becky or Kathy or another one of the leaders, I am going to close this out with a prayer right now because we have reached our kind of ending time there. Jean, I'm wondering if you can write your question in the chat box and I will make sure I get to it. Also, I always encourage you to get in touch with me or one of our steering committee members if you have any questions. Obviously, today presented you with a lot of information. You may be left with a bunch of questions about that information. So please get in touch with any of those steering committee members or me, and feel free to call me up. And I will be happy to talk with you about it. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. Let's have a prayer. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Gracious God, we give you thanks for the tremendous gift of this congregation. We give you thanks for all those who've gone before us, creating a place of generosity, creating a place of service and ministry to people in greatest need in Syracuse. We also give thanks for the opportunity of this moment. We give thanks for those who've worked so steadily over the past 6 years to bring us to this place. We give thanks for wise partners and wise consultants and for all who are doing everything they can to lend their skills and their efforts to this. We pray especially this day for all those who are in greatest need in our city and in our nation. We lift the needs of our hearts to you, things that you know as well as we, the great needs of our lives. We lift these needs and give you thanks for the many gifts you have blessed us with. We pray these things in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So wonderful to see so many of you. Bye-bye.
Bye.